Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, December 10th, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Joined, as always, every Thursday by 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong. Steve, the sun is coming up in the Gem City. I assume it's doing the same in Indianapolis based on the placement of the sun.
Good morning, Daniel. 60s today, man. 60s. I'm wearing shorts just to say I did it in December in the year 2015, man. It's going to be something else today. May even go down to the neighborhood park and play a little round leather.
Be a dad of the year with your newborn. Newborn. How old is he now? Newborn even a good 2?
No, he's almost a year and a half. He can pick up a ball, put it on a tee, and swing one of those jumbo bats. So he's got a chance, but that's thanks to his mom's athleticism.
Yeah, I'll say this. His 24/7 Sports composite score to me isn't high enough, but he's got a chance to bring that up in the next few years. Speaking of highly regarded prospects, let's just start right at the top with the name and this recruiting frenzy as we finish the season and head towards signing day. Dwayne Haskins, at one point in time, the apple of Ohio State's eye, and probably fair to say Ohio State was the apple of his eye. Quarterback out of the Bullis School in Potomac, Maryland. Their number one quarterback in the class from way back. Had a dalliance with him early. They wanted him to commit early back in the day. He wanted to look around. He eventually committed to Maryland. And then with all the coaching upheaval, Dwayne Haskins will be visiting Ohio State on an official basis this weekend. What should we know about this? How realistic is it to think that he could end up in Columbus, do you think, based on what you've learned over the last week or so?
Well, I traded some texts with Dwayne Haskins' dad yesterday and Dwayne. Not much. Dwayne's dad confirming the visit. Dwayne telling me that he's looking forward to hanging out with Coach Meyer. Dwayne's also going to get a chance to hang out with 13 members of Ohio State's number one ranked recruiting class this weekend. It's a huge official visit weekend. He's going to get a good feel for how he fits in with the guys in the locker room this weekend. What it's really going to come down to for Dwayne is this. Does he want to go somewhere where he's going to be thrown into the fire as a true freshman at 18 years old? And maybe he'll be ready, but maybe not. Chances are he's not. Or does he want to go to a place like Ohio State where he'll get an opportunity to develop behind JT Barrett and then maybe compete with Joe Burrow when JT's time is up? I'm not sure where his head's at on that right now. I know that he's always wanted to go to a place where he could play right away. That had a big reason why Maryland and Rutgers were his finalists the first time around. But there's no question he's always liked Ohio State, and Ohio State was a team that he grew up rooting for, and it was the offer he really wanted the most back when I saw him for the first time 2 years ago, and he only had a handful of offers. So we'll see how it goes this weekend. No question, I think Ohio State would love to have him in their class. So that'll be an interesting one to follow.
Just for the people, I know we've talked about it in the past here on the show. For those who haven't heard it or haven't heard your opinion, your personal opinion of Haskins as he relates to the rest of the quarterbacks in the class.
Well, I think he's the most pure thrower of the football in this class. Maybe there's a couple guys that have a little more upside. Jacob Eason, for sure, is a guy that I would point to and say has more upside. But Eason's just a natural throwing the football. And he's certainly, in my mind, in the discussion of being one of the top quarterbacks in this class. Another guy that's been an interesting recruitment, and I will tell you, at one point in time I thought Ohio State had no chance, and now it sounds like they might. Bring us up to speed. We've read about it. Donnie Corley, the receiver out of Detroit King High School. Got a visit from the Buckeyes this weekend. Do you think that turned things, or where do they stand with the receiver who's nominated for a huge national award? Well, every time we catch word that Donnie may be close to deciding, I always think it's Michigan State. So keep that in mind as I'm about to say. We've been talking about this for going back to the summer. Ohio State has led at times for Donnie Corley, and he definitely likes the Buckeyes. I just spent 48 hours with him in New York City. And there's no question that he's very high on the Buckeyes. Could have went to Notre Dame this weekend, chose to visit Ohio State. Maybe this is his last visit before deciding if he announces at the Army Bowl. You have nothing but dead period between now and then after this weekend. So this could be his last visit. Chose to go take it to Ohio State instead of Notre Dame. So that's got to be a good sign as far as where Ohio State's at on the pecking order. It doesn't surprise me. I think Ohio State's 2. So he's another guy that's about to get a chance to hang out with 13 Ohio State commits in addition to guys like Michael Weber and Damon Webb. So Ohio State's got a puncher's chance right now. I think he's Michigan State bound, but he's going into a weekend. He'll be visiting with both his parents, so it'll be another opportunity for them to be around the Buckeyes coaching staff. And there's a need at the position at Ohio State as well as there is at Michigan State. There's a huge need for it at Michigan State. So I'm still rolling with the Spartans, but we'll see after this weekend.
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point there. There's playing time opportunities both in Columbus and, East Lansing for him. Teams are losing a lot of their receiving core. Just Aaron Burbridge and Michael Thomas leaving is going to be a big blow to both programs. Okay, 2 guys that are going to be here this weekend. As you mentioned, there's going to be a ton of recruits here, guys committed to Ohio State. So when you bring in the other guys, like you said, they're getting a real chance to see who they'd be playing with. To me, this is the kind of weekend where that kind of thing can actually really, really help. The Michigan State recruiting weekend, to me, is too much of a potpourri to really get an Ohio State vibe. 2 guys I'd like you to kind of break down for us that we haven't talked about a lot here. Demetrius Robinson, athlete out of the Savannah, Georgia area, and Jason Wint, interesting prospect, committed to Temple, but high school teammate of Curtis Samuel. We could chat about him. So let's start with Demetrius Robinson, your review of him as a player and where his recruitment stands as he heads to Columbus this weekend.
Well, he's the number 1 ranked athlete in the country according to 24/7 Sports. Could be a big play receiver guy, but also certainly could play in the secondary. He's always mentioned Ohio State as a place he's wanted to visit, but after that, I'm not sure how high the interest is. He's going to learn a lot about the Buckeyes this weekend. Chris Ash was his main contact. Obviously, Coach Ash has moved on to another stage in his career. Certainly, he's going to do what he can to tell Demetrius that Ohio State's best for him. But obviously, Coach Ash won't be around to actually coach him. So we'll that one to me seems like a long shot, but hey, you're bringing him in, you got a chance if you're Ohio State. And then Jason Wint, he just seems like a true football player, a kid that's committed to Temple. Probably fits in the mold of why Temple's been so successful this year, recruiting guys like Jason Wint. We watched the film together before we got on, and he's a guy that flies around and certainly loves contact and looks for contact. And I think that late in the process, he's a guy that could end up being a good find for Ohio State. And so if Ohio State pushes for him, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind he'll end up in the class. His head coach really likes the Buckeye staff and Urban Meyer, and they trust him. So I think that just comes down to, does Ohio State push for him or not? They're obviously bringing him in, so they like him. That about wraps up the uncommitted guys that we have listed for who's coming in this weekend.
Yeah, I thought Wint, we did watch the video. From what I've heard from some people, he reminds me of, for Buckeyes, Chris Worley out of Glenville, kind of a kid who's probably safety size but played linebacker because it looks like on tape that he has cement in his pads. He's 5'11", 186 pounds. I hope he is 5'11". I told you 5'11" to me is the worst height to be listed at because it usually means anything from 5'7" to 5'11". You can't really tell on tape, but in terms of speed and willingness to make contact, he's a big-time Division I player. What else do you expect from this weekend? Any surprises? Are there any curveballs coming as we wrap this up? Would you be shocked if any of the aforementioned uncommitted guys committed to Ohio State this week?
Well, I'd be shocked. I mean, I don't expect Corley to commit this weekend. I certainly don't expect Haskins to commit on the spot. Went certainly could, and Robertson, I expect him to take it the distance. I think this weekend's more about laying some groundwork with some guys than it is about getting verbals, although Wentz certainly could verbal like we just talked about. And I never rule out another visitor or two that we're not talking about that Ohio State could be bringing in, and it's just not public knowledge yet.
You heard it here first. Stay tuned for the surprises. Our merry band of recruiting scribes, Steve Wiltfong, Bill Kurlick, Alex Gleigman, will be all over this. It's fast and furious. So recruiting has really picked up. We appreciate Steve joining us. We'll be back tomorrow morning, Bucknutters.